everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Rumcast. This is the podcast where we talk all things rum related with the people who love and shape it. We've got a great interview coming up with friend of the podcast, Mike Streeter, the owner, founder of Down Island Spirits. Part of kind of I feel like, John, this is something that's kind of a new wave of things that's happened alongside the podcast. Like the timing of it is similar, of all these newer American independent bottlers hitting the scene and kind of following in the footsteps of a lot of these IBs that have been operating in Europe and other places for a long time. But it's a newer thing to the United States, and Down Island is one of the newer companies doing that, bringing in great rums from all over the world. And it was great to catch up with Mike and hear about starting that and how they've already managed to release 6 rums, including 2 new ones that we're going to talk about from Brazil and Martinique. So great to talk to him. But before we get into that, how's everything going for you down there in Miami?
Hey, well, it's good. So first of all, happy Pi Approximation Day. We are recording this on the 22nd of July.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, wait, I don't know if you were aware of that.
I know like March 14th Pi Day. I'm not aware of
the actual Pi Day.
Okay.
That's the definitive Pi Day. But today is the Pi Approximation Day for geeks and nerds like me who know that 22/7 is the fractional form of pi, right? So yes,
I try to avoid doing math. So days that require doing math and fractions, I'm gonna overlook them on the calendar.
I fully admit to being a geek in all ways, and that is one of them.
You didn't have to admit it.
It was already there.
Yeah.
Well, something else very geeky. I did see Oppenheimer on yesterday, actually.
I don't know if that's geeky. That's a pretty big, it's a global blockbuster kind of.
Well, I haven't finished telling you what I saw.
Okay. Go
which
for it.
Is the original 70 millimeter print. IMAX 70 millimeter is not available in Miami. Otherwise, I would have seen that. But so I had to settle.
It is in Nashville.
That makes me sad a little bit.
I'm waiting a couple weeks. Congrats. I'm waiting a couple weeks until, maybe it'll be a little less crowded, but I am going to go do the IMAX 70 millimeter. I actually haven't seen an IMAX movie since the first Avatar came out, which I believe was in 2011, maybe 2010, sometime around there.
I feel like it was earlier than that even. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a minute for me.
Yeah. Well, this is not a movie podcast, so we'll skip right past this. And plus, it's very early on, so we wouldn't want to say too much. But
yeah, I haven't even seen it yet.
You should see it. Yeah, you should see it. But yes, the 70 millimeter format is pretty cool. And so yet another way that I guess I am pretty nerdy and geeky.
Does it get a John Gullah Fantastic? Can that be the extent of the review? Does it get a Fantastic or not?
It does.
Okay.
It does get a Fantastic.
Great. All right.
And we can talk more maybe in our happy hour if people are interested to hear some more pointed critiques at that point.
I'll have to try to see it before then. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get it in yet, but we'll see.
Yeah. You know what I did want to talk about, though, more rum-related, is I just came back a few weeks ago from Washington, D.C., where we took a family trip up there. And, of course, no good trip is really ever great until you visit a great rum bar when you're there.
Right.
And for us, right? And I was able to go to the Green Zone, which is a really well-known rum-related bar. It's actually a Middle Eastern bar that has Middle Eastern cuisine, but also a ton of rum. The owner, Chris Hassan Frank, which I believe listens to the podcast as a patron as well, he has put together something that is really, really wonderful there. And I think we even get a mention of that in this interview with Mike, because he was talking about it. Maybe that might have been post-recording, I don't know, but he mentioned he likes the Green Zone as well.
A lot of fans. It's got a lot of fans out there.
Yeah. So what was really cool about it is the DC Rum Rebels group, which is local there, they have something cool going on that they get to meet every so often and work through rums there and challenge each other with different things that they've bought and enjoy together. And they invited me to this little get-together at the Green Zone that night. So there was Chris McPherson, Tim Arling, Kyle Pulford, Jordan Zahner, all there. And we just had a raucous, great time pulling out a bunch of rums. And man, what a great bar. It just, the rum selection there is obviously phenomenal. The drinks that they serve there, some of which I had never heard of before. Not, for those of you who listen, I guess, to the podcast, know I'm not huge into cocktails, but they were really, really great cocktails there. And the food, I've never had a Middle Eastern cuisine as good as this.
Wow.
It was incredibly
High
good.
praise. Yeah.
Yes, incredibly. Like I've had a decent amount of, like Middle Eastern cuisine here and there. This was the first time where I just was like, holy crap. I've been eating like what I feel like must have been the McDonald's version of this before, because that was so good. So anybody who gets a chance, long story short, visit the Green Zone when you're in DC. You will not be disappointed.
It's always just such a nice free bonus when a great bar also happens to have great food. You know, it's just like totally unexpected. So when that happens, it's like, wow, this is amazing. So that's great to hear.
Yeah. And there was one story I wanted to share, Will, with you and with everyone that was kind of interesting and related to something that we did in our past. So we've got this table of everybody where we're just having a good time, eating and drinking and doing our thing. And we're positioned in a very crowded place. I mean, there was a lot of people there, which is great. And we were nearby where kind of the bathroom for the place is. And there's a guy also in the DC Rum Rumbles. His name is Nick. And he's sitting at the chair that is nearby the door into the bathroom, right?
Okay. Best seat in the house.
Right. What that means is at some point that Chris brought over the single origin Holmes Key Fiji bottle that we helped to get over here. Yeah. I had a few ounces left of it. And, we were, I guess, kind of going through that and talking a little bit about that. And Nick kind of took it upon himself as people were coming to the bathroom that may have been here for no reason related to rum to start proselytizing a little bit with some rum and using the single origin Fiji to say, hey, taste this.
Yeah.
Right?
Just on their way to the bathroom?
Yeah.
I love it.
So it was pretty cool. And, he got a few people to try it and got some, good reactions to that. But there was one that stuck out to me. And the guy that was doing this, he said he doesn't usually drink rum. He knows it, he's familiar with it, but he's not a rum drinker. He tried it and he really enjoyed it. He was like, this is fantastic. And if I, the same story we've heard 1,000 times, right? If I knew this is how rum was, I would be much more interested, right?
Yeah.
And then as he leaves the bathroom, he comes walking in my direction because they had pointed out that this is the person that helped get this over here, right? Much to my chagrin, right? Yeah. They're like, oh, this guy, And so he comes and he whispers something in my ear, Will. And because it's loud, he whispers in my ear. He says, hey, look, this is really, really great. My advice, if you want my 2 cents, don't call it rum.
What else would you call it, though?
Oh, what a heartbreaker, right?
A crushing blow, yeah.
Yes, I'm so glad that he liked it. But his takeaway from this was you are going to be more successful not calling that rum, because that was the method he chose to see success for that bottle rather than to explore and expand what rum can be. So I just had to share that with you.
My only critique to the suggestion would be that if you're going to suggest to call it something else, come with an idea of what to call it, because what you call spirits when you put them in stores dictates where they end up on shelves. And if you don't fit neatly into a category, you tend to go to the shelves that no one ever looks at. So while rum may have a long way to go to get the recognition it deserves, I'm planting the flag. It's a rum, and we're never going to call it anything else. And I'm sure Eric is never going to call it anything else either.
I'm pretty sure you're right. Yeah. It's just an interesting take to hear in the midst of all of that greatness that night. So Will, what's been going on with you lately, and how's everything over there?
So I was also recently traveling, and anytime I'm traveling to another city, I try to find a place where I can get some good rum. But I was taking a trip to Las Vegas, and I was going with some friends. We were going to attend the NBA's annual Summer League there. So I got to see the recent #1 overall draft pick for my favorite team, the San Antonio Spurs. Yes. Victor Wembanyama, the most hyped prospect since LeBron James, 7'5" Frenchman. He's going to completely change the league, but we'll leave that conversation for another day. It was amazing to see that. But while I was there, I know there are some highly recommended rum bars in the Las Vegas area, but I was mostly around the Strip. I didn't really have time necessarily to go seek out places. So I was just kind of like keeping an eye open for interesting rum opportunities if they so happen to reveal themselves. And, John, if you've been to New Orleans, there's those little daiquiri, little like hole in the wall daiquiri station things all over the place. And it's the classic, like much reviled version of the daiquiri that rum purists dislike, which is the slushy,
Yes.
bright red.
I call them pool drinks. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't taste anything like rum version of the daiquiris. And I was surprised to see that Las Vegas also has many of those places around the strip and stuff like that. But one afternoon, my friends and I were walking through Caesar's Palace, just having successfully blown through some money at the craps table. And we're just looking for a place to sit down and relax for a little bit. You know, it's 115 degrees outside. You know, we've been up all night. We just want to sit down and chill. And as we're walking through the casino, I see a sign and it says rum bar. And it has an arrow telling you which way to go. And now, normally,
like
John...
fluorescent neon, like...
No, see, it wasn't. It wasn't.
No?
It was it was like a gold placard, sort of. And here's the thing that really got my attention. It was rum with an H. So RHUM bar. And I was like, oh my God, do they have like a rum agricole themed bar in here in Caesar's Palace that I somehow haven't heard about? And so my friends are all starting to sit down. I'm like, hey, like, come on, let's just, I know we're exhausted. I know we just like lost some money, but let's go. There might be a cool rum bar here. And so we walk, you know, probably a quarter mile through this casino, and I keep following the rum bar signs. I'm explaining to people why, since there's an H, this might be a very good thing. And then I'm around the corner only to find that it's the exact same standard frozen slushy daiquiri station. And I was just thinking to myself, who came up with the idea to use rum with an H for this bar? Like, was this some kind of mind game? Were they trying to attract, you know, highbrow rum drinkers and you know, trick them? It felt like a bait and switch to me. So anyway, all that is a long way to say that my rum adventures in Las Vegas were thwarted. I as soon as I saw what it was, I walked back away. I apologized to my friends, said, I'm sorry, this is not what I thought it would be. And that was that. But other than that, had a great time.
Man, so 2 stories with really awesome trips, but some slight disappointments with how people are still doing rum around here. I guess that makes even what Mike Streeter is doing even more valuable.
Yes.
Because he is trying to, like we hopefully try to do here on our podcast, change perceptions of rum and change how people view it. I am interested to know, like you said, it was just like the SEO game that they were trying to put the H in rum bar, and they were like, let's separate ourselves a little bit. Or if, you know, it could somehow be a French background purveyor who still...
I don't know. I was so disappointed that I didn't even, you know, linger long enough to try to make sense of it. I just walked away dejectedly. But anyway, it's a good point tying it back into what Mike is trying to do with Down Island. And we were able, he sent us some samples of his 2 new releases, and we both had a lot of good things to say about them. We get into that more in the interview, but we talk a lot about just, you know, it's always an interesting story to hear, you know, the journey someone has in starting a rum business like this, and the process they go through in selecting the right rums, and, you know, how they make those decisions, what they're hoping to do next, and all that. And we get into all that and a whole lot more. And Mike's also been, I mean, he's been a self-professed rum geek for more than 20 years. So he's been in this for a long time, has a great perspective, a wide-ranging lens with which to examine the rum world because he's been in it for so long. So anyway, with all that said, we'll go ahead and take things over to the interview. All right, we are here with Mike Streeter, the founder, owner, proprietor of Down Island Spirits. It is spirits, right, Mike? It's not just Down Island. It's Down Island Spirits. Okay.
It is.
I'm not sure if that's a hint of more to come in the future, but maybe we can delve into that further into the interview. I was thinking earlier today, it's really cool that we're doing this interview now, because I remember, you might know the timeline a little bit better than me, but I remember it had to be over a year ago that you sent us an email and said that you were working on starting something, and we had a phone call, and you kind of gave me the background info on it. And now it's like, you know, a year, maybe 2 years. The timelines are all fuzzy to me now, but it's like you already have 6 releases under your belt. You're out there, you're doing it. We're running into you at festivals. And I wanted to ask, like, looking at the continuum of starting a rum business, what's the comparison for where you are in that point now? Is it like you've been through your freshman year already and you're kind of like, you know, the bullying is out of the way, you've got kind of adjusted and everything? What's a comparison we can make to let people know where you are?
I think I'm still very much the awkward freshman.
Okay. The braces haven't come off
in the
yet.
scene. I get beat up once a week still. I still feel like I'm very early stages. I think it might be that second semester of freshman year.
Still getting stuffed in a locker still.
Yes.
Pool is on the third floor that doesn't actually exist. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, do you, so in that case then, do you still feel very much like you're learning on the job on a daily basis, or like have you kind of fallen into a workflow? Like where are you in that respect?
Well, getting the first releases out it was last October.
Okay.
Getting the first releases out definitely helped, and that was truly learning as I went. I knew several years ago that I wanted to develop a brand, and by several years ago, I mean like 10 years ago. I wanted to develop.
Wow, yeah.
I wanted to develop a brand, and I was doing a lot of promotional work in rum and writing work within the industry, and I saw at least what I thought were opportunities within the rum scene to develop brand, mostly based around high quality cask strength unadulterated spirits. And this is before it was Samaroli really was the only one doing it in the States at that time. We would get occasionally we would get access to a different IB here in the States, but it wasn't very often. But I never had the bandwidth or truly the time or resources to make it happen. And then COVID happened, and I had some time on my hands, as most people did. So I finally got my importer's credentials in order, my licenses and permits, and paid all the fees, and truly started to develop the concept for this brand. And that was about 2 years ago when all of that kind of came together, and we started receiving samples after that. I reached out to many of my friends who work in the industry, both on the broker side of things as well as directly with the distiller side of things, and requested samples, and we told them kind of the distillate that we were looking for, and they sent over samples. Got 150 samples.
Oh wow! I was about to ask, do you remember what the first ever sample you tried was? But if you received 150, I'm guessing maybe they kind of blended together. No pun intended.
We got 150 samples, and I realized pretty quickly that there was no way I could do all of this on my own. So we created a small tasting panel of friends of mine who some are in the industry, some are just like me, they're aficionados and collectors. We tasted our way through several sessions, tasted our way through all 150 samples, and created a kind of a top 20 list. We were able to get about 15 of those casks. So that was kind of the beginning of developing the brand. We knew what we wanted to stand for, which was high quality, unadulterated, flavorful, bold spirits, bottled at cask strength with no additives.
Did you have a grading system or something like that? Like, were you scoring them, or was it more just like? Did.
I've been a part of a lot of tasting competitions at festivals over the years, so I used kind of created a system based around those grading and ranking systems.
Actually, on that note, let's take a step back. I want to get more into the brand identity and how you got there, but maybe it's worthwhile for us to jump back and start by saying, I know kind of the motto of Down Island is by rum geeks for rum geeks, which is great because you're on the home audience here. How long have you been that self-described rum geek? You mentioned 10 years now that you've been wanting to do a brand, but does your rum experience extend even before that? You alluded to doing some writing and some things. I guess maybe what I'm asking is, where did your love of rum first begin?
Yeah, it's funny because the by rum geeks for rum geeks thing really is it's kind of an unofficial motto. It's become that. There was a guy who walked up to my booth at a tasting event that I did 6 months ago. We were talking, kind of really specifically about a few of the brands, and he kind of took a step back and he said, "Wow, you're a rum geek, man. This is like by rum geeks for rum geeks," which it kind of fits. So I use that in some of our press releases, and I think it's on the website. So whoever that was, thank you, because people seem to enjoy that. I've been a rum geek, for self-proclaimed rum geek, for a number of years, probably 20 plus years. And I got into rum really through travel. And I talk about this in some of the tastings that I do. I grew up in Chicago, which is one of the best cities in the world. winter in Chicago lasts like 6 months. So if you're there from December through seems like late April or May, it's a terrible place to be. So early on in my 20s, I started to travel to the Caribbean. Early, let's see, gosh, that probably would have been in the late 90s. Started traveling to the Caribbean for a week at a time, and these were really just meant to be like winter beach chill out trips. And when I got there, they were definitely that. But I discovered rum. And
you're like, oh, there's rum here.
Yeah, there's rum here. Yeah. It's everywhere. It's of a higher quality than I'm accustomed to from distilleries I hadn't heard of. And I jumped right in. And back in those days, again, the late 90s, we just didn't have access to good rum in the States. The best liquor shop in Chicago probably had 20 rums, and half of those were spiced and the other half were flavored. We just didn't have access to good rum. So I was discovering rum at the source, high quality rum, brands that I had never heard of. And these were well-established brands, but brands that I had never heard of from distilleries that I was unfamiliar with. And I started to tour distilleries, try new cocktails, started to interact with people who worked at distilleries and made rum, made a lot of friends. And I've done that ever since. I still think the best way to learn about anything is doing it at source. What's fun about rum is that, rum distilleries are cool. Touring rum distilleries and checking out the distillation process is fun and interesting. And you follow that up with a trip to the tasting room. So I'm a strong advocate for, if you want to learn about anything, do it at source. And for rum, even better, because it's a fun experience. And that's travel is really how I got into rum.
Yeah, like you can't beat being there in that environment to really experience some of those things and then learning about it at the same time.
Absolutely.
So then where does the name Down Island come from exactly?
Down Island is just, a term that we use. John, you should know this. We use the term in South Florida, if your friends taking
Stop
a sailing
playing
trip
dumb, John. Come on.
going on vacation. Down Island is just, where are you headed to next week? Oh, Down Island. That just means points south. That means the Caribbean. That means, you're going to the islands.
Yeah, I figure there's a handful of people, maybe some from Chicago, that don't know that term. So I wanted to
probably. What we've discovered is that it means different things. It means the same thing, but in different parts of the world. We've had some people reach out to us in Europe, in the Mediterranean, people use Down Island in certain places, and in Asia they use Down Island. Just means geographically means something different, but all kind of similar.
I feel like up here in Tennessee, referring to going down island is not something we do that often, unfortunately for us. But I feel like when you see the name, you kind of inherently get the meaning of it, sort of, So in that respect, I think it works quite well.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. When we think about branding, we hope that it conjures up images of the islands, but not just the islands and palm trees and things like that, but high quality distillate in this case.
Yeah. It's either that or there was a Florida island named Down Island that you live on, and didn't think that was the thing. So
not yet.
You were speaking to kind of how long you've been into the rum world, and I know back in the day, I'm not sure if you still update it, but rumconnection.com is your website, correct?
Yeah. I had a website that was updated every day for about 10 years.
I went all the way back because there's 33 pages of posts on the page because I wanted to see when it started. And the very first post was September 23rd, 2008. So wow. Not quite 20 years ago, but I'm sure you were, that was a step in your rum journey. Your rum journey had already begun before 2008. So one thing I wanted to ask with all that experience in mind is it's always interesting to me to hear kind of how people's tastes have evolved over time. I'm sure the first rums you were enjoying in those early trips to the Caribbean, your tastes have probably evolved since then. So what are some rums or maybe just rum styles that you enjoy now or find yourself gravitating more to that maybe 10 or even 5 years ago, you weren't into as much? What's kind of grown on you in recent years?
Well, I can tell that you've been looking back through the Rum Connection archives, because we wrote a lot about rums that, and probably gave a good review to rums that might not necessarily make the cut.
No,
nowadays.
I was not looking at it with a critical eye or no judgment or anything like that. This is a question I love to ask everybody.
Yeah.
So
our tastes do change, don't they?
Yeah, Mike, if you go back and listen to the first episode of the Rumcast, I'm a little embarrassed at some of the stuff that I talked about then, and that was only 2 or 3 years ago, I think. So, we all have our journey. Yeah,
I'm much more focused now on cask strength rums, as we all are. It's a trend that the industry has taken, or at least our little corner of the industry has taken over the last 5-ish years, especially here in the States. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned early on, Samaroli and maybe Berry Brothers were the only real independent bottlers that you would find in the States on occasion. Mm-hmm. And even they were bottled at
45,
45. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can remember getting my socks blown off by Demerara 88 by Samaroli, which was a really, really fantastic rum. Mm-hmm. And I found a bottle recently and popped it open, and it's 90 proof. I thought it was way hotter than that, but it's not. It goes to show you how I think our tastes change. I think the industry has changed. We're drinking higher proof spirits now. We're drinking unadulterated spirits. 10 years ago, 12, 15 years ago, what we had access to, what we thought was good rum, oftentimes was dosed heavily with sugar and excessive amounts of color. And I think consumers have just become more knowledgeable now, and our tastes in rum reflect that.
Did you have one of those eye-opening, oh my God, there's additives in this moments,
yes,
as that kind of information was proliferating across the internet?
Yeah. I think we all had that, that moment where we realized that a lot of the rums we were drinking weren't quite what they were saying they were. Mm-hmm. And, we had some help along the way. There were some distillers out there who were, starting to make some noise about these really popular rums in the States that were, that we had access to, at least here in the States, that were full of additives. And not just sugar, but glycerin and excessive amounts of color. Not to mention the dodgy age statements and flowery backstories. So, I won't mention any particular brands, but yes, I remember an experience I was having a few drinks with a friend who pointed out that a lot of the things that I liked and some of the things that were in my collection were really full of additives, and I should probably do a little bit more research into what I was drinking. And
how did the friend broach that with you? Like, was it done delicately, or was it kind of like was your reaction to it? Oh my God,
do your research,
or was it like
it was total ball busting, like in your face, get your shit together type of conversation.
It sounds like you still absorbed it and took it in. It didn't.
It worked.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it worked. Again, I think that we all have a certain responsibility of becoming more knowledgeable consumers, and I certainly went through that phase. And many people have said it in the past. Drink what you like, but also know what you're drinking. And and that's not necessarily where we always were. For in the aficionado enthusiast scene, I think we were enjoying a lot of what we had access to.
Sure.
And now we have more access to truly remarkable spirits that aren't filled with additives.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just John and I talk a lot about, the kind of the best ways to communicate the whole additives landscape to people who are newer into spirits, and how to do it in a way that's informative but doesn't turn them off. But we've learned that in some cases, bullying does work, apparently. So I don't know what we do with that, but we're not endorsing it. Just saying, in this one specific case, it seemed to have worked.
Were you guys active in the, and Will, you probably weren't because you were in middle school or elementary school at the time, but John, maybe you were, but were you guys on the, pre-social media? Were you on the Ministry of Rum website at all to experience the on
I was not.
online community that Ed created.
I've gone back
No.
and looked at some of the older posts, but I
have
was
done
not
the
there in
same
real
thing.
time.
It was great. It was great. It was really it was a great source of information, but it was the first experience that any of us had at Rum Community, where there was this message board, and it sounds so ridiculous and antiquated now, but it's where we were in how we communicated online. There was a message board. You'd write a question, people would answer. You'd talk about your favorite rum. People would give their opinions, and it was the first experience that we all had as coming together as a community. Yeah. And I learned a lot from that site, and from Ed Hamilton about rum and additives and brands that are known for that, and others that are known for higher quality. And it helped a lot. And again, this goes back 15 plus years ago.
Right. It's nice that it's also still kind of there and archived. And like Will, I've gone back in and looked at a few of those, and kind of there's still good information there and interesting conversations that are archived there that it's pretty interesting to kind of work through and see. But, I guess it could have been worse, Mike. We could have been on IRC, Internet Relay Chat, or Instant Messenger, AOL Instant Messenger. I remember those days too.
I may not have been on the rum communities in those days, but I was on all of those platforms. On other stuff. Growing up, and I grew up in I lived pre-internet era, so I remember when my house got dial-up. I remember using AOL. I still love, that's part of what I love about going back to the Ministry of Rum is it gives me nostalgia for what websites used to be like. So it's really fun that like corner of the internet is still preserved. Anyway, moving on for that, going along with what I was talking about earlier in terms of your, learning experience as you transition from being a rum enthusiast and someone who did do professional work in the rum world, but now you're someone who is actively releasing rums of your own. Now that you've been at it for a little bit, what has been harder about being an independent bottler than you expected? And what, if anything, has been easier?
It's all difficult, to be honest with you. I mean, the spirits industry is highly regulated. And, I spent 15 years promoting rums and writing for a few dozen different brands. But starting a brand and going through the regulatory system is just confusing as hell. And I ended up, getting some help with the process through a consultant, and that made the process much more streamlined, and it sped things up. I ended up saving money doing it. So I would say that really it's all been difficult. I would say the one thing that I would point to directly that's been more difficult than I thought was, our single cask series is one project that we're working on. We're working on a few different things. Single cask has just been the first to come to market.
Oh, okay.
We're also working on just doing some straight importing work of established brands from a few distilleries that
that's cool.
have never been accessible in the States before.
This is music to our ears.
Yes, it is.
And I think you'll love these rums as soon as they get here. But we've been working on this for a year so far, maybe a little more than that. And if you are working with a distillery that has never released any distillate in the States before, you have to get an FDA approval for that particular distillery, which complicates the process in a lot of ways. And it has slowed things down. It's slowed things down more than I could have ever predicted. So I figured importing rums from, already established brands, no problem. That's going to be the easy part. I'll start with that and then move on to other things. But the single cask was far easier than actually doing kind of straight importation of these products. I will say that the kind of rum enthusiast scene has been incredibly friendly with our initial releases. We've gotten good reviews. People have reached out to us on social media and email and just congratulated us on the brand and the picks. And, when you work on something for 2 years and finally get something to market, any kind of positive feedback is just greatly appreciated. So that's not easy by any means, but I figured that there would be a few bad reviews.
Haters.
There would be some naysayers, a couple of haters. But we've made some friends and some fans early on, and that's just again, it's just music to our ears.
Yeah,
that's good to hear.
Well, with the regarding the FDA, I'll quote one of my favorite TV shows of all time. That's what governments are for, to get in a man's way. And I'll leave that at that. But
what is that? Is that The West Wing?
Firefly. Come on, Bill.
Sorry, I don't know. I've never seen The West Wing, but it was about government, so I just guessed.
Good guess. We're both Aaron Sorkin fans. So,
am I an Aaron Sorkin fan?
I believe you are, because we talked about this before.
Did we?
Yeah. We talked
I'm trying to think of what Aaron Sorkin projects I might. What did he do? The Social Network was a good movie.
Mike, by the way, this is the divergence that you don't hear when we edited it out in these.
Let's do it. But keep it going.
But, yeah, Aaron Sorkin. We talked about The West Wing. We talked about Sports Night, and we talked about the one with Jeff Daniels.
The problem is I never watched any of those shows, so there's no way I expressed myself as a fan of them because I haven't watched.
What
West
about
Wing.
The Social Network?
That was a good movie, yeah. But I wouldn't. I know it was Aaron Sorkin, but I wouldn't. I don't have his IMDb memorized by heart, so I don't know if I would go. But yeah, great film, The Social Network.
Okay, back to the subject here, Mike. So I remember vividly when you first came to market with your first 4 releases, and I remember seeing all 4 of these together and thinking, "Holy cow! This guy. There's no in between here. You're going for it." And really excited by that because I imagine, most IBs, they probably just see with one release and see how that goes. And you're coming to market with no less than 4, and one of which is a 21-year-old Barbados rum from Foursquare. So it really was, kind of surprising and like, wow, this is going to be really, interesting to get into.
It wasn't a typical Foursquare either.
Right. Did you begin with the vision of releasing the 4 rums at once like that? Or did that evolve into your strategy? I was just curious to see, how did that all work itself out?
We were going to launch with the Barbados 2011, the Hamden, and the Worthy. And then we got access to the 20-year pot still rum from Foursquare. And we added that to the mix because we knew it would sell well. And of our, like I said, of our top 20 list, we were able to get about 15 casks. Some are unknowns, some are known. Some are from distilleries that are from countries that, from countries that we've never received rums from before, from distilleries that have never been accessible in the States. Others are from well-known distilleries like Foursquare and Hamden and Worthy Park. Mm-hmm. So we launched with those distilleries because they're well-known, they're well-respected, and we knew that there would be some name recognition there. Because Down Island Spirits didn't mean anything, but we knew that these rums would be highly sought after. Right. And then to add a highly unusual rum like a 20-year pot still Foursquare to the mix, we knew that it would sell well, and it actually sold out really quickly. So it was just kind of a business decision. We were going to launch with 3. We added the 4th rum because we knew it would sell well, and there were other casks out there. So we wanted to get it to market while we could before it was, before there was a surplus of it.
Yeah. Can people still get some of those initial releases? You mentioned there's the 2002 Barbados is now sold out, but the other ones, are they still around and available for purchase either on the website or? Yeah,
there's actually still some 2002 out in stores. It's been long sold out from our distributor. But I see some floating around in the Florida shops. There's some up in Boston floating around. I'm not sure that the shops up there have completely sold out yet. And there's still a case left at the shop that handles our e-commerce. So you can actually go to Down Island Spirits and order the 2002, downislandspirits.com, click the buy now page, and it'll come up with all of the rums that are available. And there still should be 4 or 5 bottles left of the 2002 directly from the site. But they've all been long sold out from the actual distributor.
Yeah, no, that was great to see. And I actually, at the risk of sounding like this is sponsored content, which it is not, the experience, because I ordered that bottle of the 2002 Foursquare from your website, and the experience of being able to do that was really great, and something that I value highly as a rum consumer in Tennessee that doesn't always have access to all the the great new releases. So yeah, so kudos to you for getting that up and running. I know it's not the easiest of things to get an online store like that together. So
it was really important for us to do so.
Yeah.
We launched in one state. We were in Florida, and our e-commerce partnership allows us to ship to 40 states.
Yeah.
So, and we'll drop a free shipping code on occasion, so a lot of people don't have to pay for shipping depending on what product you order. So it was really important for us to be online with a shop early on, and it's done wonders for sales, and it's kind of helped us, pollinate many states with the Down Island products, which wouldn't have been possible before.
I like the expression pollinate. That's good. You're pollinating the marketplace.
You got it.
I did want to ask on the Foursquare pot still. I think rum enthusiasts who are following releases like that notice that there were kind of several of those that all hit the market at once. It was like all of a sudden, multiple different independent bottlers were putting out 2002 all pot still Foursquare. Was that a surprise to you, or did you know that was coming? I guess what I'm getting at is just like how, because we hear all the time, the rum community is a small world. I know other people who are in the business. You guys talk. It's not like, I don't think, that many adversarial relationships, but is there a competitive side to it, to like being the first, to be out with something? And how did that strike you when it's like, oh, there's all this 2002 Foursquare all of a sudden?
So we all bought it. No mystery here. We all bought it from the same broker,
right?
I'm sure. And I think we all hoped that we had the only barrel, or the only barrel in the States, or the only barrel in Europe. Frankly, we saw the drop we saw the release in the UK, and so we knew we wanted to release ours first. I didn't know Holmes Key had a barrel. I didn't know that. What's the other one? Royal Cane, I think
that's right.
They had a barrel. I didn't know. None of us knew each other had a barrel.
Okay, so you're all kind of slowly finding out as you see each other's popping up.
Yeah, and and it was disappointing, I guess, in a way, because my goal is to have zero overlap with other independent bottlers in the States, and I really hope to do so. I think that like Rolling Fork is doing some really great work with all the Barbados and Jamaican rums. I think Eric at Holmes Key has done, like all the Belizean rum that he's selling, all of the really cool Guyanese marks that he's done. I wouldn't wade into that territory at all. And so I was a little bit disappointed that, from the get-go, we were already having some overlap with another IB here in the States, and it wasn't our intention at all. And so moving forward, we're really hoping to stay away from that.
Well, at least it was something that is rare enough, I would say, that it's not like that comes around that much. So, 2 barrels being stateside, speaking from the rum consumer standpoint, is, welcome, I would say, when it's something that kind
everybody sold their cask.
Exactly. Sure. Yeah.
I imagine you're like, I broke rule number 1 immediately.
Well, look,
curses.
Early on, before we sourced rum, I think maybe we had samples, but early on in the development of our brand, I reached out to a few different brand owners that I know, and Eric Key was one of them. And he, I didn't know him. I just was friends with him on social media. I asked him if he'd take a call. He did. He gave me some great advice. First of all, he took the call, which some people wouldn't have. He gave me some really good advice. He was incredibly kind and generous with his time and his knowledge. The last thing I wanted to do was overlap with him on any product. And so it was just unintentional. I will say that having 3 casks of 100% pot still rum from Foursquare in the States was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
exactly.
a really good.
Agreed.
It was a really good day for enthusiasts and collectors.
Agreed. I wanted to mention that actually, that of your first 4 releases that you released, they were all molasses based, and I think 3 were 100% pot still, and 1 was a column pot blend. Yeah, and then now so we haven't really broached this yet, but you have your 2 newest releases, which is the Brazil rum and the Martinique rum. And both of those are 100% column, 100% column, and cane juice base. So it's almost like you flipped to a whole nother side there. Was any of that intentional, or is that it just sort of worked out that way?
There's a smaller market for cane juice rums. And so we knew that kicking off the brand with 4 kind of bulletproof rums would be a good business decision. But moving forward, we're going to release a lot of cane juice rums, a lot of more unusual rums that, are just kind of outside what we normally get in the States. So I guess it was a little bit of a strategy, but I love both of these rums that we just put out. You mentioned the 6-year aged agricole rum from Martinique, which was distilled at St. James, 4 years aged on site in Martinique, and then another 2 in Europe. And then a really interesting rum from Brazil, which is 80% cane juice, 20% molasses, aged 6 years in amburana casks on site at Epris Distillery in Brazil, which is outside of Sao Paulo, and then another 6 years in American oak in Europe. These are just cool rums, interesting rums, unusual flavor profiles, and that's why we release them as follow-ups, because we love these rums. And the Florida Rum Society picked did a cask pick with us on the Brazil, and it's gone over really, really well. We're pleased that they enjoyed these rums, and there's a lot more to come.
I think, Florida Rum Society members like myself, we know a little bit about that, like you mentioned, and shout out to Jay in Orlando. But can you talk a little bit? We wanted to ask, so the Florida Rum Society pick, is that the only Brazil rum available at the moment? Or is there plans for more? I wasn't really sure how that was working itself out.
Is there like the pick and then another cask, or is it all the same?
Yeah, so we've just about sold all through that cask. We're almost almost at sellout on the first Brazil cask. We do have another cask.
Oh, nice.
Okay. It's same distillate, a little bit different ABV. I think that the FRS pick was 55. I think the other cask we have is at 53.5. Very similar, same profile, just a little bit different ABV. And we'll release that one as soon as the FRS pick sells out.
So the people looking for the 1.5% are there. Get to it.
Yeah, we're expanding our distribution. So about 4 months ago, we expanded to Massachusetts, which has been a great market for us. We're furthering expansion into New York and California later this summer and early fall. It's hard to put a date on these things, but it's important for us to have more than one cask of some of these rums, which have become really, really popular. And so I think that we'll move forward with, depending on demand, we'll move forward accordingly with the number of casks we purchase.
Can I ask you one more thing about that before we move on, which is when you're buying multiple casks as an IB, is your goal to have them be very similar in profile so that everybody gets a similar experience there? Or it doesn't really matter if it's, one cask can be very different from the other one, and it kind of is what it is?
So we're getting a lot of requests for cask picks. And I think having the same flavor profile between 5 casks is probably not the right decision to make there. I think that people are looking for unique, they're looking for interesting, they're looking for bold. And so I think we'll have different profiles represented, even if it's from the same distillery, even if it's the same mark. Different cask finishing, for example, on a few of the different casks. So I think we'll do both. I think it really depends on demand.
I wanted to ask about the Epris Distillery in Brazil, because I think it might be more familiar with fans of European IBs, as there have been a number of Euro releases featuring their rum. I do think this is the first one I can recall seeing in the US, at least in recent years. What can you tell people who might be less familiar with the rum about the distillery from a stylistic and production standpoint? Because I see Brazil rum and I see cane juice, and I know there is 20% molasses base, but the first place my mind goes is this cachaça to Brazilians? Like where does it fall? How does that all shake out?
So Epris is a big distillery, like I said, outside of Sao Paulo. They've been around since the 1950s, mostly as a contract distillery, although they do have some of their own products. And I mean, they've made rum for Bacardi, for example, but they
Right.
also have had their own brands. They have a column still. They have a pot still. They do cane juice. They do molasses. They do a lot of things. I think what's most interesting to me about Epris is that their cask aging follows that Brazilian style, where they have access to woods that we just don't get here. And the amburana cask added such a unusual profile to this particular rum, and that's why we chose it. But they're a big distillery, and they've been around for a while. They've made other spirits as well. They've made vodka. They've made sake, which is something that you don't necessarily think about coming from Brazil.
Yeah.
But the samples that we've gotten, and again, they were from a broker. They were all really interesting and unusual. We'll probably pick some more from Epris.
Yeah, you mentioned the amburana wood. This one spent 6 years, so the first half of its life, I believe, in amburana wood. For those who haven't experienced an amburana, aged rum, how do you describe the effect that has on rum?
Very spicy, black pepper, just very bold profile notes. And it's become much more common to see of course, amburana in cachaça aging has been, happening for a number of years. Become more popular in cask finishing in the whiskey world.
Yep.
And the beer geeks are getting into it as well. I think that this, from my perspective, I think it's the first amburana aged rum that we've had here in the U.S. There have been some releases in the U.K. Certainly have been Epris Distillery releases in the UK and throughout Europe. But I think a few of those were amburana aged as well. But it's just an unusual kind of spicy, peppery profile. And it's mostly used for finishing. This spent 6 years in an amburana cask. So it's bold. It's very expressive.
Yeah, I think my first experience with amburana was Avwa does a cachaça, and they have an amburana bottle. And the thing that I pick up from it a lot is kind of like almost like a cinnamon toast crunch kind of element to the rum, which is just really, I mean, that's one of those flavors that just I feel like has universal appeal to people. And I find it a little bit in this rum as well. And that could just be my own subjective tasting experience, but that's something about it that stands out to me that I enjoy with that one.
No, I agree with that note, Will. I get something similar to that, too. I wouldn't have described it before you said that as that, but I can see where you're coming from. And, we try a lot of rum, Mike, as you know. Will and I both have a lot of rum. It's not often that I get one that I go, whoa, this is different. And definitely the Brazil did that for me, which is kind of cool. It's always interesting to find new things even after years of exploring of different rums, and you still can stumble on something that gives you a different experience or profile. So
that's great to hear. That's great to hear. And like I said, I mean, that's what we want this brand to represent, is not to regurgitate what everybody else is doing, but to come to find rums that are truly different and unusual. And when we first tasted this particular expression from Epris, we thought that it fit that category. I will say, and this is National Daiquiri Day, fellas. So happy National Daiquiri Day.
I just saw that. I didn't realize it. Yeah.
And
I'm having one later.
Someone on Instagram posted a few weeks ago that they tried the new Down Island Brazil in a daiquiri, and that it was out of sight.
I bet it's really good.
And I didn't think that could possibly be true, but it is. It makes a great daiquiri, and I would recommend it to you guys. Give it a try. That just subtle amburana note in the actual cocktail once it's mixed is it just adds a new element to a very common drink, and it's worth trying.
We just got to come up with a name for it, Mike.
Let's work on this.
Streeter Daiquiri, the DI Daiquiri.
Needs work.
We'll figure it out. By the end of the program, we'll figure something out.
We'll workshop it.
I wanted to give a little bit of time also to the St. James pick, the Martinique also. I know there's many distilleries on Martinique, but sadly, as you kind of have already mentioned, we don't really see a lot of those higher proof, non-standard releases in the U.S., even though I know they exist because, the internet exists and I get to, man shakes fist at cloud on the internet when I see all these releases coming out and they're not in the U.S. But I was thankful to see that this is something that you were doing. What are the sort of things that you were looking for from an aged agricole specifically, and how did you ultimately decide upon going with Sainte Marie Distillery, the maker of St. James?
I love the distillery. I've been there a few times. It's really interesting, kind of a agricole museum. I mean, the experience is like walking back in time. You can see how the rum is made, of course, but they actually have a still museum there. They have bottles that date back to the 1800s. But the rum itself has been one that I just have enjoyed so many times over the years. St. James is actually the first aged agricole that I ever tried here in the States. Back in, must be almost 20 years ago, there was an expression called hors. And I think that's like extra old or very old in French. My French is horrible, but
you're in good company.
This is the same mark. I think that was a 2 to 4 year blend. This is a 6, but it's absolutely, unquestionably the same mark. And when we tasted this, we knew that it was something that we wanted to bottle. And again, I think it's just an interesting distillery. I love their products. I don't think we get enough of them here in the States, although that has improved over the past couple of years. But we're just happy to be able to get this cask.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've said that back on the program a few times as well. Like, I think I might have yelled at Will at some point just out of frustration of not having this. So I was very, very excited to see this being brought, and it's a really fantastic pick as well.
St. James has this kind of familiar, if you're into St. James, it has this of black pepper, briny, musty note to it that is unmistakable. And when we were going through our initial agricole samples, I knew we all picked this out as St. James early on. I think we had 2 or 3 samples from St. James. This was the best one. And we hope to get more from them.
Yeah, at the risk of using a whiskey comparison, it has a spiciness to it that kind of reminds me of rye. Not that it has the same notes as a rye, but that same kind of feeling of spice that you get from it. I've been going back and forth between both of those rums throughout this call so far, and
here.
It's interesting because they're both distinct from one another, but and you mentioned that it wasn't necessarily planned to do these together, but it almost feels like there's a connection between both of them, that like it's like they make sense together as a release, kind of like if you're listening to an album from a band and like the first song and the second song are different, but they just like flow together, well. That's kind of like how I feel about these 2 rums being released together. So it's
great to hear. It's unintentional, but I'll take
it. You talked about your selection process earlier. You have the tasting panel, the rating system. Have there been any tough calls so far? Have there been any knockdown, drag out fights about which one is actually the best that should be released? What have been like the hottest contested issues to go through there?
No fist fights yet. There are some members of the group that truly haven't discovered haven't developed an appreciation for cane juice rums yet.
Still, and even after these 2.
And so, well, yes. But I'm all the way there on cane juice rum. So, about half the panel was, we had very similar picks, and then there were, 2 or 3 of the members of the group that you could tell were not cane juice fans. I think that's probably the only thing I would point out so far. And we're not, this group. I guess I have the final decision on what we decide to bottle. I'm just looking for some guidance. I'm just looking for trends. I'm just looking for trends in our ranking system to see that, I'm not the only one that actually approves of, a particular cask.
By the way, it just occurred to me, and we don't try to shame anyone's tastes on this show about what they like. If you only like molasses rums, that's completely fine. But it did just occur to me that a perfect name for people who are all in on molasses but hate cane juice, molass holes. It's pretty good, right?
That is terrible.
It's gonna catch on. Just watch.
It'll be a thing. Oh,
I see the bumper sticker in the T-shirt now, John. Or Will.
So moving on, Mike, we spend a lot of time on this show talking about transparency in rum, and the first thing you notice when you look at your bottle and label is, to my mind, one of the best examples of transparency in action on store shelves right now, not only for rum, but maybe any spirit category. And so I wanted to highlight that a little bit and ask you, how long did it take you to come up with that information? And what was really critical to be listed on it? And how hard it was to determine overall what needed to be there and what had to be left off, because you just don't have enough space.
Well, we want everything on there. We want to be as transparent as possible. So we include the obvious stuff here. And then on the back, there's a paragraph about the brand and a paragraph about the aging. And as we get more information, like yeast strains and ester counts, that's going to be on the bottle too. Oh. We just don't always have access to that. So we want to put everything on the label that we have access to. And a lot of times that depends on whether it's coming from a broker or from a distillery. If it's coming directly from a distillery, we get a little bit more granular with it. From a broker, the information's really good, but we haven't gotten to yeast strain info yet. So to be continued. We just want it all to be there. We don't want there to be any question about what's in the bottle. We want it all to be, completely transparent.
If you had the room to add like one more dotted line on there, do you know what that would be for most of them?
If we get an ester count on some of our upcoming rums, which we have, that'll be on the bottle too. It's funny, the woman who designs our label is just, she's had it because she's had it with us.
Too much text.
Made a lot of changes, made a lot of requests, and right now, from her opinion, there's enough here. But we've gotten some great feedback about the label. We've gotten some really good feedback about the bottle. So, John, you're hard on bottles, man. I would love to know what you think.
I truly like this bottle. It's probably one that Will and I both like, is my guess. But I'm gonna okay.
It's in the rare Venn diagram. It's that little sliver that we both agree on. Yeah,
it's functional in the shape of it. And it's still, and even though there's a lot of text on there for putting this information, it's not put in such a way that it like makes my eyes go blurry because I just don't want to read it. It's very distinguished in that way, and distinguished is really something that I'm looking for out of a bottle. It's like, can I show this to a friend? And even though they're not a rum nerd or rum geek like we are, they're still going to go, ooh, what's in that? Right? That's the reaction that I look for. And I think that you have that here in this. They're like, that is an interesting bottle. It's certainly miles away from the kind of traditional, bottle shape, and that already starts to go somewhere. And then adding the label and the information that's there, it just really feels like something different. So I think you've succeeded there, in my opinion. And so, yes, that's a rare thing, Mike, where we both, Will and I, are approving of that. So kudos.
Does the bottle style have a name? Like, is there a way to describe that style of bottle? Because I don't know how to describe it.
I think this bottle, it's funny. It's actually, this bottle was not our first choice.
It reminds me of something you might see in like an apothecary or something. There's like a medicinal quality to it.
And it has a name to match. I'll have to get that for you, Will. I'm not really sure, but this, we developed the brand during the great glass shortage of 2020 and 2021, right? You guys heard about this. There was no bottle. There were no bottles. And even worse for a new brand because no one wanted to deal with us. So we had a bottle that we liked. It wasn't available. It wasn't going to be available for a few years. We kept moving on down the line. We found this bottle, which really fit what we were looking for and the kind of vibe that we were trying to create. And there were a couple of pallets in Illinois at a warehouse someplace. And so we bought everything they had. It's gone over well, but it was just luck because we were getting really desperate with what we had access to.
Sometimes constraints lead to the best creative breakthroughs.
we wanted something, we wanted something unique.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to look like other brands. And in the craft spirits world, there's a lot of brands that use the same bottle, and we wanted to get away from that.
Yeah.
And so this was just kind of a happy accident that worked out.
Yeah, you know what? One final word on that is I didn't really think about it until right now, but when I think of the bottle in my head, I somehow associate it with an island vibe, but not in a dominant way. It's like just somewhere in the background, there's like this islandy vibe. I don't know if that's just because Down Island Spirits, it's in the name, or there's something to it. I don't know what it is, but for some reason it works. So, your second choice, great choice.
It's islandy, but not island dominant.
Right.
Yes.
Well, if I've got both of you on board, I'm just pleased about that, because I think that's pretty unusual. Maybe it's a first. Is it a first on the show?
It's not a first. We do agree occasionally on bottle and label design, but again,
but you're
it's
in rare company.
If we arrange the Venn diagram, the circles would be like just barely touching. It's just like that little sliver.
Right. I'm in all the good side, and then Will just breaches into it.
I appreciated hearing about your war of words, though, with the labels and trying to get as much information on there as possible. In my day job, I'm a copywriter, so I collaborate with graphic designers quite a bit, and do a lot of back and forth on, can we make this shorter? And a point I make often is, if the words are all good, people are happy to read them. So I'm with you there, Mike. I did want to ask you, you mentioned there that the information you can get is different depending on if you're going direct to a producer versus going through a broker. What has that process been like for you? I know when new IBs are getting started, a lot of times they're relying mostly on brokers, and then over time they develop, because I think getting stuff direct from the source, sometimes it takes a little more time. You have to develop the relationship, you have to go there, you have to meet the people, shake the hands, all that stuff. But you've been traveling for quite a bit and going on distillery tours. What was that process like? Like how much have you done that's direct with a producer, and how different is that experience versus going through one of the brokers?
We haven't released anything that we've purchased directly from a distillery yet. These are all from brokers, and I've reached out to a lot of distilleries, oftentimes where I have connections, and nobody wants to sell me 5 casks. It's just a nuisance at that point. They don't want to sell me 1,000 liters. They want to sell a tanker,
right? And
so it is challenging, but we just took possession of some rums from a distillery. So, it's possible. And I think the smaller the distillery is, probably the more likely they are to work with us, because it does a few things. It's revenue for them, but it also gets their brand out there, maybe to a market where they're currently not represented. And I think that that's probably good for everybody, especially when they're a startup as well.
One other thing is talking about the details on the label and the descriptions you have on the website. I read these very closely, not because I'm trying to catch people in falsehoods or anything, but just because it's what I do. I've noticed that some of your releases are explicitly described as cask strength, while others don't have cask strength, written anywhere about them. And I just wanted to ask, how do you determine final bottle proofing? Is it a case-by-case basis, or have you sometimes just not had the option of doing cask strength, or is everything cask strength and just sometimes it gets described that way and sometimes it doesn't?
It's all cask strength.
Okay.
All of our current releases are cask strength. I think that there's the phrasing that we've used when describing these rums probably varies a little bit. Everything has been cask strength thus far, and will continue to be cask strength in future releases, except when something comes in at 70+%. And again, we've taken possession of a few casks that are they're 140 proof. There's a limited number of people who are going to be able to enjoy spirits at that proof.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I know I'm going to get email and hate mail and messages from a group who wants
70 plus, the 70 plus group.
70 plus. But
yeah.
I think for us, the sweet spot's probably around 62 to 60. I'll say 62, 60.
Yeah.
When something comes in at 70, we may dial it back a little bit, but we don't have to make that decision for a while. Those casks need to be aged probably for another year or two. So everything right now is cask strength.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. And I wasn't asking in order to put a value judgment on cask strength versus not, because I agree with you that at times it is fun and enjoyable to try things at their whatever proof, whether it's straight off the still or straight out of the cask with no water. I do enjoy that, but I do think to get the optimal experience that you want to come back to again and again, sometimes it does take a little proofing down to find what that is. And so I do appreciate when bottlers can find their way there and give me a final product that they've determined this is where this spirit is best enjoyed at. So I do appreciate that viewpoint as well.
Yeah. You won't find any 40 ABV expressions from us anytime soon. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, 40 is literally always too far. So I appreciate that.
I was going to make fun of Will for being as detail-oriented and thorough about bottle label review. And then I realized my next question is probably just as focused.
That's right. You're right down here. You're right down here in the pit with me.
So coming from the bourbon world myself, I'm more familiar with bourbon labels, and they tout the use of non-chill filtration, or I should say the lack of use of chill filtration. But there are very few rums that list on the label no chill filtration like you do. So I was just going to dig into that a little bit of, number one, for those that maybe aren't as familiar with what that is, if you can review that a little bit. I expect most people that listen to this podcast will know, but there might be a few people out there, especially those who might be new to rum and are just finding us, what chill filtration is and why it mattered to you that you put that on the label that it wasn't.
Yeah, the reason that it's on the label is because we want, like I said, everything on the label. The reason that we take a stance against chill filtration is because it's been known to filter out flavor, and that's what we're all about. The process simply is chilling rum to a certain temperature where esters and fatty acids coagulate and create a fog, and then that is filtered out of the actual fluid. And in my opinion, that's also has the potential, at least, to filter out flavor. And our rums are all about flavor. So we're not chill filtering any of our products. And there has been a debate about this for years, whether it actually removes flavor. Does it not?
I've seen that. Yeah.
A number of years ago, I was part of a tasting here in Florida where they had the same mark of whiskey. One was chill filtered and the other wasn't. And there was a noticeable difference between the two. And you could tell that there was some flavor stripped of that product. And I just don't want to risk that in any of these rums.
Right. I think to your point about it being a debate, I assume that not every distillate is going to be the same, and that some of them, when you do chill filtration, may not experience a whole lot of difference, but while others, it may absolutely make that difference. And to your point of saying, well, we're just going to steer clear of that and keep it as much of what was in the barrel is in your glass as possible, I can appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to, we want this to be as much of a barrel to bottle product as we possibly can. So there is some light filtration, passes through a couple of plates. We don't want any, barrel residue, char to show up in a bottle. But like our whiskey friends, if you're really into these spirits and there's a small amount of sediment at the bottom of the bottle to save flavor, then yes, absolutely, we're okay with that.
Yeah, I agree.
That's just a sign that you've got the good stuff. When you see the little bit of sediment down there.
You got it.
Mike, you mentioned before that you've traveled widely throughout the rum world. What is one destination that you think maybe gets overlooked, maybe underappreciated, isn't the first place that rum enthusiasts may have on their list to travel to, that they should immediately move up closer to the top? What's the place that people should seek out?
Oh, man, it's just so many. There's so many. I would say Grenada is one of those places for me. I love the island. It's a beautiful place, very geographic or topographically, I guess, very interesting. It's there's mountains, there's a rainforest, there's
we've talked to Mark Rainier all about the topography there.
And so now that Renegade is set up, I think that that Grenada should no longer be overlooked. Not to mention that River Antoine is there, and Grenada Distillers is doing some really interesting things as well. Wester Hall, of course, no longer makes rum. They import it from Trinidad, but they have a cool bottling facility there and kind of tourist, a little tourist spot. But Grenada is truly a cool island that not a lot of people go to. And if you're interested in rum, there's definitely enough to keep you busy for a few days. And then Australia, Australia is
wasn't expecting Australia to make the list.
Making some incredible rums. Of course, we've had access the last couple of years to some really nice expressions from Beanley. Mm-hmm. But there are...
Oh, you even said 50... it right. John and I have been courteously corrected on our pronunciation of Beanley. Maybe I got it right there. Maybe I didn't. But you nailed it.
Yeah, you did.
But there are 50 plus distilleries making rum in Australia now. And we've had others that are absolutely incredible. So I think Australia is one of those destinations that, should be in... If you could make it, do it. And there's a lot of rum once you get there.
We know that you've just now put out these two new releases, the Brazil and the Martinique, and that there's a little bit of those first releases still left that we mentioned earlier. But if you know this show well, Mike, and I believe you do, you know that we like to also ask about, maybe what's coming down the pike, what's coming in the future. And to the extent that you can maybe tell us a little bit of that or give us some hints or clues, is there anything you can say about the future for Down Island right now?
3 new rums coming out in the October-November timeframe, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Nice.
1 molasses rum, 2 cane juice rums. Let's see here. 2 distilleries that have never been represented in the States before.
Wow.
So truly some new product.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's
really
music
great
to my ears.
Is there any... Does that just focus on single cask releases, or are you also including the importing that you're doing?
No, that's just single cask.
Okay. Is there any?
I haven't put a time frame on. I haven't put it for time frame on the. I've given up on a time frame for the importing. Those get here when they get here.
Okay.
That's just for the single cask series.
I respect your right to withhold information here. I understand.
Can we play 20 questions?
I just want to ask a few non-revealing questions. Is there any overlap between what you're planning to import and any of these 3 single cask releases?
No.
Okay.
Nice.
Can you tell us the most common language that is spoken in the countries where these distilleries are that you plan on importing?
No is an acceptable answer if you need to.
I'd say three different languages.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you answered it while also telling me nothing, which I respect there.
There you go. Okay.
Does it start with A through Z? No, I'm joking.
Yes.
It sounds like we have a lot to look forward to, which is really exciting. But we'll put up links where people can check out the Down Island website. All the information that is on the bottles is available there for people to see as well, which I always appreciate. But Mike, before we go, as I'm sure you all know, we have a final segment on the show called the Rapid Fire Round that needs no introduction.
Yes.
For
Speaking of excitement.
And this is one of the times, by the way, I've mentioned this on the show before, that sometimes I see these questions from John. Most of the time I give them a once over. I haven't looked at these at all, so I don't know what's coming other than the standard questions. But so I'm looking forward to hearing these as well.
So, Mike, you
Yeah,
have
let's do
no
it.
idea. Will hasn't reviewed these. We
Nope.
could be in weird territory here
This
in a
is
minute.
non-chill filtered,
Non-chill filtered.
non-chill filtered rapid fire segment.
Non-will filtered rapid fire. You missed. That was
There
right
you
there
go.
for you to take it. All right. Well, let's go with this. So, Mike, you know what's up here. We're going to put 60-ish seconds on the clock. It's a generous 60 seconds. We're going to get through as many of these as we can. Short answers. Some are going to be super serious and some are super silly. And there's no wrong answers with these, so you just go for it, and we'll go as fast as we can.
Let's do it.
Will?
All right.
I heard that. He said, let's do it.
Yeah.
That was consent.
I've got 60 seconds and go.
All right. Neat or on the rocks?
Neat.
Column, pot, or blend?
Pot.
Aged or unaged?
Aged.
And molasses or cane juice? I think you answered this one.
Cane juice.
Yep.
Ooh, not a molass hole. See? It's catching on.
Your favorite hobby not related to rum?
Travel.
Okay, well, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, you nailed that one too. I couldn't help but note that Down Island's brand is technically Down Island Spirits. Will, I think you mentioned it in the intro.
Did.
Does that mean that there might be more than strictly rum in your future?
It will likely be just rum. Honestly, we chose Down Island Spirits because of a domain name and a trademark issue.
Okay, all right.
Love
That's-
hearing the unvarnished reason.
Exactly.
You got it.
Practical answer. All right. Speaking of practical, we do something here on the Rumcast as a free service. We offer free marketing advice. And although by Rum Geeks for Rum Geeks is pretty good, as we said, I've got some other taglines here that I think for Down Island you should really consider. So these are some free ones. We're going to go through 3 of these real quick. You ready? You just give me the yay, nay, or
Thumbs
whatever
up or
your
thumbs
reaction
down.
is. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. The first one. At Down Island, we know what's up with great rum.
Halfway.
Okay. This one's a little bit more niche, but we're going to go with it. I don't know, for you Community fans out there, the TV show, Mike Streeter, your last name Streeter, how about Down Island? We're streets ahead of the competition.
Not so much.
Ah, okay.
Thumbs down.
The Community fans
Thumbs
aren't going to
down.
like that one, I'm just saying. All right, how about this last one? Down Island, we don't make the rum you buy. We just bottle and label it better.
I'm going to go halfway on that one too. I appreciate the creativity.
So no winners in this.
Back to the drawing board, John.
Though. Yeah,
Right.
I think
But
you
no
had to
losers.
go that way.
But no losers.
Okay,
So,
all right, that's excellent. I'll take it. What's your Grail rum distillery right now?
oh man. I'll have to get back to you on that one. I'm not sure because I'm close. I'm close. on
Oh,
this.
he's close to it.
I'm
Okay.
close to my Grail distillery.
So you can neither confirm nor deny at this time, is what you're telling me.
Oh, it'd be too big of a hint.
You'll be the first to know. I don't want
Okay,
to let anything
excellent.
out of. I don't want to give my future releases away.
Yeah, the whole strategy of this is we try to catch you in between these other innocuous questions. So,
Right.
you did really good.
Yeah.
Okay. As a fellow Floridian, Mike, what Florida college football team is the best, and why is it the University of Miami?
I'm going with Miami. I don't look, man.
Oh, wise.
I don't even know why. Just because I think I'll get some kudos from you.
He saw the 30. He saw the 30 for 30 on ESPN.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's the
It
reason.
is a very wise choice of you. Is it true? I heard that all of yours are limited bottlings here. Is it true that you've personally kissed every single bottle before it leaves your warehouse, and that you consider each one precious?
And that is true. That is true.
Excellent. We won't ask where you kissed it on the bottle. That will remain a mystery. But it's good to know that each one is precious, like we said. All right. Your favorite person to share a bottle of great rum with, other than us, of course?
My favorite person to drink with is Bahama Bob Leonard from Key West, Florida. He'd be a great guest for you guys.
I think I saw him pop
tell
up
you.
on rumconnection.com a few times over the years.
He probably did. He's a good friend, great rum enthusiast, and a great drinker.
Nice. All right. And finally, every rum you've bottled at Down Island so far has actually come from an island, except one, Brazil. So
Right.
I want you to be honest. How long did you lie awake at night wrestling with that fact?
You know what? I probably will lose some sleep over it tonight, but this is the first time.
I mean, yeah, it shouldn't it be called like down continent or down mainland, I guess you could say.
It's true.
It's a line extension on the brand. Anyway, my branding is off already.
That
is time on that note.
It was a very generous 1 minute.
A very generous.
Hopefully that puts me at the top of the leaderboard.
Mike's like, how Mike's like, did you have to rake me over the coals for that long? We do that for everyone, Mike.
Yeah. We just edit it down, a little bit. And you had the right answer with University of Miami, so we'll be gracious in that.
I will say, in some of the feedback we've gotten, the only thing I can think of in terms of feedback about the rapid fire that we've gotten over the years has been from people saying make it longer. So I think maybe that's where the generous 60 seconds comes from.
It's great. I love the rapid fire, man. It's fun.
All right.
Well, on that note, anything, I know we talked about, the origin, what's out there now. We talked a little bit about what's to come in the future. Is there anything we didn't get to that you want people to know before we wrap up?
Oh, I think I would just say thank you to anyone who's shown any interest in this brand as a startup. Like I said, there's a lot of legwork, a lot of checks being written for a couple of years before products actually come out. So to get some feedback, to get positive feedback or negative from people who have purchased bottles, like I said, we've made a lot of fans and friends early on. Thank you to everyone who's shown interest, and keep an eye on our socials for upcoming releases. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us on social media, through our website. If you're interested in purchasing our bottles, they're available in select stores throughout Florida, now in Massachusetts, soon come to New York and California, and always on downislandspirits.com. But just thanks to everybody who's shown interest early on. It's been a great 10 months so far.
Yeah, well, it's great to hear that, and we'll put links up where people can check out all of that stuff. But John, I know I'm assuming we're both really looking forward to seeing what's coming next. So many hints were dropped throughout here, including I've got to know what the Grail Distillery is now. So when I don't want you to tell us which one it is. I want to see the releases, and then I want to try to pick out which maybe it'll be obvious, but I want the opportunity.
Or let's have some drinks, and I'll probably, tell you after a few rums.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Deal.
You guys start driving north, and I'll start driving south, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle of Georgia probably. But yeah, thanks again, Mike, for taking the time to stop by.
Thanks, guys. It was fun.
All right, everyone, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Rumcast. If you want to learn more about Down Island Spirits, check out all those releases we talked about. You can go to their website. It's in the show notes. You can find that there. And hey, if you've tried any of these releases, would love to hear your thoughts on them. Feel free to send us an email at host@rumcast.com. That's HOST@rumcast.com. Or you can reach out to us via social media. John, where can they find us there?
Yeah, at the Rumcast on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. And you can find us on any of those platforms. We will post the episode when it is live, and we will follow up with any comments or DMs if you want to let us know what's going on with your rum journey or any questions you might have, whether it's from this interview or in general for rum. We're always happy to reach back out and talk with you on those things.
Are we on Threads yet, John?
We're not on Threads.
Is Threads dead already?
I
feel like I heard a lot about it, and the past few weeks. Yeah, we'll investigate Threads. We'll see if it's worth investing in or not.
Yeah, well, let us know. Hit us up and let us know. Hey, do we need to be on Threads? Is it worthwhile?
If we're really missing out on the Threads experience, please let us know.
We're barely on Twitter as it is, Will. But yeah, I'm curious to know also for other people, if you've tried these releases, where is your favorite? So I think, Will, you and I, of the two new ones, we liked both of them, but my favorite, I think, was the Brazil by a little bit, and your favorite was the Martinique by a little bit.
Yeah, so. I don't know. I think actually the one I want to go back to more now, I think, is the Brazil, just because I just want to figure it out a little bit more. I got to figure out what's going on in there.
Or if you're like us, you get both, and you enjoy and have a good time. So, just let us know where your thoughts are with any of that and any questions that you have. And of course, if you're more along the lines of wanting to join us to talk in a discussion, we do our monthly happy hours for our patrons. You can go to patreon.com /the Rumcast, and you can sign up for the Patreon there and join us for those happy hours and talk it through with us then. So,
we've got one coming up
plenty of ways.
Yeah, we got one coming up on August 2nd, so looking forward to that. But John, until next time we talk, I'll see you then.
I'll see you. Cheers.